After your game today, if your record is 2-3, you may still be going on in the tournament. There are 4 slots available for teams with records of 2 and 3. No? Yes?
No, that's
Sorry?
sorry.
Oh, okay. But you won't know if you're in until 11 o'clock, which is when they'll be computing the averages and posting the results. So please go to the commonplace and check the board at 11 o'clock to see if you will in fact be playing at 11:30. If you win, of course, there's no question. Okay, the captains are Shane and David. Very good. Okay, both teams are ready. We'll get started. Good luck to both teams. Here's your first toss-up question. What is the proper term for the windpipe?
Benton, Shane.
Trachea.
That's right. Toss-up. In Longfellow's Hiawatha, who was Hiawatha's bride? Time, that was Minnehaha. Toss-up question. The Annals of Congress began with the first meeting of the Congress of the U.S. The name was changed to Register of Debates from 1824 to 1837. Then Congressional Globe from 1837 to 1872. Since 1872, this daily record...
LBJ, David.
Congressional record.
That's correct. Toss-up. What country singer had a 1969 hit titled A Boy Named Sue?
Benton, Jeremy W.
Williams.
Time incorrect. Can you take it? LBJ.
LBJ, Ellie.
Rita McIntyre.
No, that was Johnny Cash. Toss-up. Identify the entire adjective clause in the following sentence. The composition which I wrote last year...
LBJ, Ellie.
Which I wrote last year.
That's correct. Toss-up. What, what grammatical term is used to describe a verb form ending in IN?
Benton, Shane.
Jaron.
That's right. Toss-up. Gumbinnen, Tannenberg, and Missourian Lakes were all battles fought in which...
Benton, Shane.
Civil War.
Incorrect. I'll finish for LBJ. Were all battles fought in which war?
LBJ, Allen.
The War of 1812.
No, World War I. Here's your next toss-up. Identify the grammatical mistake in the following sentence. Quote, I can't hardly tell the difference...
LBJ, Ellie.
Hardly.
Incorrect. I will finish for Benton. Identify the grammatical mistake in the following sentence. Quote, I can't hardly tell the difference between the new car and the old one.
Benton, Jeremy W.
Double negative.
That's correct. Toss-up. What is the geological term for the period of time between two successive ice...
Benton, Shane.
That's time. I'll finish for LBJ. What is the geological term for the period of time between two successive ice ages?
LBJ, David.
Era.
No, it's an interglacial. Here's an 8-second mathematics question. What is the sum of the proper integer divisors of 32? That's time. It's 31. Here's your next toss-up. What U.S. state capital has the largest population?
Benton, Shane.
Sacramento.
Incorrect. Can you take...
LBJ, William.
Phoenix, Arizona.
That's right. Toss-up. What is the French word for Christmas?
Benton, Shane.
Noel.
That's right. Toss-up. What is the geological term for sedimentary rock consisting of silt and clay in...
Benton, Shane.
Shale.
That's right, in thin layers. Toss-up. In 1295, he returned to Italy, and in 1298...
Benton, Shane.
Marco Polo.
Yes, that is right. Toss-up. Liliuokalani was the last monarch...
Benton, Shane.
Why?
That's right. Toss-up. What river flows through Montgomery...
Benton, Shane.
The Chattahoochee.
Incorrect. I'll finish for LBJ. What river flows through Montgomery, Alabama? time. It is the Alabama River. Toss up. In which work by H.G. Wells do the Morlocks eat?
Benton, Jeremy F.
The Time Machine.
Yes, eat the Eloi. Toss up. Who recorded the hit song Achy Breaky?
Benton, Shane.
Cyrus.
That's correct. Toss up. Name the former Secretary of Defense that President George Bush pardoned.
Benton, Shane.
That's time. I'll finish for LBJ. Name the former Secretary of Defense that President George Bush pardoned in his last weeks in the White House.
LBJ, Ellie.
Weinberger.
Yep. Casper Weinberger. And the final question of the first period. When William Marbury brought his famous suit against James Madison for failing to deliver his commission as Justice of the Peace for the District of Columbia, what position in government?
Benton, Shane.
Justice of the Peace.
Incorrect. I'll finish for LBJ. What position in government did James Madison hold?
LBJ, David.
Secretary of State.
That's right. And that's the end of the first period.
Score, Benton, 90. LBJ, 50.
All right, we're ready. We'll go on to period number 2. You're playing for 20-point bonuses. Here's your first 10-point toss-up. What modern American author has produced works entitled The Bean Trees and Animal Dreams?
LBJ, Ellie.
Shel Silverstein.
Incorrect. Can you take it, Benton? Time. That is Barbara Kingsolver. Here's your next toss-up. What is the gelatinous substance obtained from seaweed?
Benton, Shane.
Auger.
Or agar-agar. Either is correct. Your bonus concerns the Counter-Reformation. Answer these questions about the leading religious order of the Catholic Church during the Counter-Reformation. Number 1. What is the more common name for the members of the Society of Jesus?
Jesuits.
Which Spaniard was the founder of the Society of Jesus?
Loyola.
More information?
Ignatius Loyola.
Yes. In what century was the Society of Jesus established?
16th century.
And finally, what is the English name for the rules of the Order of the Society of Jesus? That's time. They are the spiritual exercises. However, you have the first 3 correct for 15 points. Toss-up. Name the first person to run a mile in
Benton, John.
Bannister.
less than 4 minutes. Roger Bannister is right. This bonus concerns Jack Nicholson films. You are to identify the film in which Mr. Nicholson appeared. Number 1, he played free spirit Randall P. McMurphy.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
He starred as a gifted pianist who drops out to drift among odd jobs.
5 Easy Pieces.
He made a brief appearance as an undertaker who enjoys extended dental work.
Little Shop of Horrors.
And finally, he won an Oscar for portraying an over-the-hill astronaut.
Batman.
All correct. No. The first 3 are correct for 15 points. The last is Terms of Endearment. Here's your next toss-up. What metallic element has a melting point of 29.78 degrees Celsius?
LBJ, Allen.
Mercury.
Incorrect. Can you take it, Benton?
Benton, Shane.
Nickel.
No, that would be gallium. There you are. Next toss-up question. Which syndrome is caused by the inheritance of the chromosome?
LBJ, Ellie.
Down syndrome.
Not what we're looking for. I'll finish for Benton. Which syndrome is caused by the inheritance of the chromosome abnormality XXY?
Benton John.
Super male.
No, Klinefelter syndrome. Here's your next question. How many children appear in John Singleton Copley's family portrait?
Benton Shane.
5.
Incorrect. Can you take it, LBJ?
LBJ Ellie.
12.
4 is correct. Here's your next toss-up. What type of dancers were most frequently portrayed by the...
LBJ Ellie.
Ballet dancers.
That's right, by Edgar Degas. The skeleton. I'll give you the common name of 4 bones, and you give me their technical names. Collarbone,
Clavicle.
shoulder blade,
Scapula.
kneecap,
Patella.
Patella.
lower jawbone.
Mandible.
20 points. Here's your next toss-up. Near what island would you find the greatest observed depth of the Atlantic Ocean?
Benton Shane.
Bermuda.
Incorrect. I'll fit.
LBJ David.
Mariana Island.
Incorrect. Puerto Rico. Here's your next toss-up. What name is given to the massacre of the French in Sicily?
Benton Shane.
St. Bartholomew's Day.
Not what we're looking for. I will finish for LBJ. What name is given to the massacre of the French in Sicily in 1282? Time, that is the Sicilian Vespers. Here's your next toss-up. With what century do we usually associate the terms the Enlightenment?
Benton Shane.
The 18th century.
That's right, and the Age of Reason. Death in literature. I'll give you the title of a literary work, and you give me the author. You may note a theme in this question. Death comes for the Archbishop.
Catherine.
Death of a salesman.
Miller.
Death in Venice.
Man.
The death of Artemio Cruz. Okay. The last is Carlos Fuentes. However, the first 3 are correct for 15 points, and that is the end of the second period. Coaches, if you wish to confer or make substitutions, you can do so at this time.
Score Benton 165, LBJ 80. Thank you. Who's in? Good. Always good.
Okay, if we're ready, LBJ, you'll have the first choice of the 3 categories, which are the Mexican War, plant structure, and literary occupations.
And literary what?
Occupations.
Occupation. Structure. We'll take plant structure.
All right. 60 seconds, 10 questions on plant structure. Name the plant structure described by the following phrases. Number 1, embryonic tissue in growth regions.
Cambium.
Incorrect. Outer covering of bark of trees.
Cork.
Yes. Least specialized, most common of plant cells.
Cambium.
Incorrect. Water transporting tissue.
Xylem.
Yes. Food conducting tissue.
Phloem.
Yes. The stalk of a leaf.
Pass.
Okay. Place on a stem where a leaf is formed.
Bud.
Incorrect. The wide, flat part of a leaf.
Pass.
Okay. Fine projections from terminal portion of roots.
Root hairs.
Correct. And finally, specialized openings in leaves permitting gas...
Stoma.
Say again?
Stomata.
Yes. You have 5 correct for 50 points. Benton, you'll have 30 seconds to answer these 5 questions. Embryonic tissue in growth regions.
Meristem.
Correct. Least specialized, most common of plant cells.
Parenchyma.
Correct. The stalk of a leaf.
Stem.
Incorrect. Place on a stem where a leaf is formed.
Abscissus.
Incorrect. And finally, the wide, flat part of a leaf.
Blade.
That's right. 3 for 30 points on the bounce back. The 2 that were missed, the stalk of a leaf, petiole, place on a stem where a leaf is formed, the node. It's 50 and 30. Mexican War or literary occupations.
Literary occupation.
Okay, I'll name a character, and you give me his or her occupation. 60 seconds, 10 questions. Number 1. Arthur Dimmesdale from Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter.
Rich minister.
Correct. Gregor Samsa from Kafka's The Metamorphosis.
Doctor.
Incorrect. Gavin Stevens from Faulkner's Intruder in the Dust.
Policeman.
Incorrect. Charles Bovary from Flaubert's Madame Bovary.
Pass.
Okay. Jane Eyre from Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre.
Housekeeper.
Incorrect. George Babbitt from Sinclair Lewis's Babbitt.
Businessman.
Incorrect. Joe Gargery from Dickens's Great Expectations.
Blacksmith.
Correct. Silas Marner from George Eliot's Silas.
Weaver.
Correct. Catherine Barclay in Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms.
Nurse.
Correct. And finally, Sam Spade from Dashiell Hammett's
Detective.
That's correct. 5 for 50. LBJ, you'll have 30 seconds to answer these 5. Gregor Samsa from Kafka's The Metamorphosis.
Farmer.
Incorrect. Gavin Stevens from Faulkner's Intruder in the Dust.
Farmer.
Incorrect. Charles Bovary from Flaubert's Madame Bovary.
Lawyer.
Incorrect. Jane Eyre from Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre.
Nanny.
Incorrect. And finally, George Babbitt from Sinclair Lewis's Babbitt.
Banker.
Also incorrect. They are salesman for Samsa, lawyer for Stevens, doctor for Bovary, governess for Jane Eyre, and realtor
Governess. Nanny.
for George Babbitt. Score, Benton 245, LBJ 130.
Would you like to announce that, or shall I?
Go ahead.
Okay. The protest was an answer stoma was given, and then when I asked for it again, it was stomata. As it turns out, we discussed this before, and either answer is acceptable. So in fact, the first answer he gave was correct. And to be honest, I heard this difference, but since both answers were correct, it didn't make any difference.
Increasing LBJ's score to 140.
245, 140.
245, 140.
Okay. The rest of the questions are 20 pointers, and you have 15 questions to go. Good luck to both teams. Here's your first 20-point toss-up question. This is an 8-second question. In the coordinate plane, what is the x-intercept of the line with an equation 3x minus 8y equals 42?
LBJ Ellie.
14.
That's right. Toss-up. What is the two-word term for a listing of the non-civil service jobs that an incoming president may fill? Time. That is the plum book. Toss-up. What gaseous element was discovered by Jansen and Lockyer?
Benton Shane.
Helium.
That's correct, in 1868. Toss-up. Which Holy Roman Emperor kept a copy of Machiavelli's The Prince by...
LBJ Ellie.
Nero.
Incorrect. I'll finish the question for Benton. Which Holy Roman Emperor kept a copy of Machiavelli's The Prince by his bed, ruled the largest amount of territory in Europe in the early 16th century, yet eventually abdicated his throne and spent the remaining years of his life in a monastery?
Benton Shane.
Charles V.
Charles V is correct. Toss up. Who wrote the novel Howard's End?
LBJ Ellie.
E.M. Forster.
That's right. Toss up. Which Broadway musical is loosely based on Thornton Wilder's The Matchmaker?
Benton Shane.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
No, Jeremy. That's time.
LBJ Ellie.
Guys and Dolls.
Incorrect. Hello, Dolly. Toss up. Which sign of the zodiac has the goat as its...
LBJ David.
Capricorn.
Correct. Toss up. According to the 1990 U.S. Census, which state has the largest number...
Benton John.
New York.
Now what we're looking for, I'll finish for LBJ. According to the 1990 U.S. Census, which state has the largest number of American Indians, Eskimos, or Aleuts?
LBJ Ellie.
Arizona.
Incorrect. Oklahoma. Toss up. What noted American historian and journalist won a Pulitzer Prize and a National Book Award?
LBJ Ellie.
Sorry, that's time. I will finish for Benton. What noted American historian and journalist won a Pulitzer Prize and a National Book Award for his 1953 work entitled A Stillness at Appomattox?
Benton Jeremiah.
Foot.
Incorrect. Bruce Catton. Toss up. These polls are sometimes used by the TV networks to predict...
Benton John.
Nielsen.
Not what we're looking for. I'll finish for LBJ. These polls are sometimes used by the TV networks to predict early election outcomes.
LBJ David.
Gallup.
Also incorrect. I'll finish the question. What is the term that is used for polls taken as people leave the voting booths? The answer is exit polls. Here's your next toss-up. Give the name of the state whose state capital in a list of alphabetized state capitals would be last.
Benton Shane.
Time. Can you take it, LBJ?
LBJ Ellie.
Salem.
Incorrect. Trenton, New Jersey. Toss-up. On what lake is the Canadian city of Yellow...
Benton Shane.
Great Slave Lake.
That's correct. Yellowknife. Toss-up. Which Anton Chekhov play portrays the...
Benton Shane.
Cherry Orchard.
That is correct. Toss-up. What class of organic compounds is characterized by the CHO radical?
Benton Shane.
Hydrocarbons.
Incorrect. Can you take it, LB? That was
LBJ
Allen.
Allen.
Alcohols.
Incorrect. Aldehydes. Toss-up. What term is used to denote the observed increase in wavelengths of light due to the...
Benton John.
Doppler effect.
Incorrect. I'll finish for LBJ. What term is used to denote the observed increase in wavelengths of light due to the expansion of the universe?
LBJ Allen.
The Hubble effect.
Incorrect. Redshift is what we're looking for. That is the end of the game.
Just for the sake of English. Just for the sake of argument. Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis.
Final score, Benton 325, LBJ 200.
Mr. Davis.
Is the
Ready? Okay, South Oldham, you've not been in this room for a game. You do know that in this room I will recognize you and call it. Remind both teams to wait for full recognition before you answer in our toss-up rounds. You have made it to the final 16. Congratulations, and here we go. What is the Hebrew greeting that Peter, South Oldham?
Shalom.
That's correct. What chemical element derives its symbol from the Latin name Aaron, South Oldham?
Tin.
That's correct. What ill-fated expedition to the west was Derek, South Oldham?
Honor party.
That's correct. What is the principal religion of Albania? Aaron, South Oldham?
Orthodox Christianity.
It's incorrect. What is the principal religion of Albania? Rob Dorman?
Muslim.
That's correct. Under the purview of which cabinet department does the Minority Business Development, Aaron, South Oldham?
Department of Commerce.
That's correct. Which post-World War II American president could be accused of nepotism? Aaron, South Oldham?
Harry S. Truman.
Incorrect. And which post-World War II American president could be accused of nepotism in filling one of his cabinet positions? Dorman Michael?
Kennedy.
That's correct. What is the largest island of Greece and the 5th largest island in the Mediterranean? Josh Dorman?
Crete.
That's correct. What do we call a sentence that contains two or more independent... John Dorman?
Compound.
It's incorrect. I'll repeat. What do we call a sentence that contains two or more independent clauses and one or more... Aaron, South Oldham?
Compound complex.
That's correct. What is the simplest of the carboxylic acids? John Dorman?
Formic.
That's correct. Sorry about that. The woods are lovely, dark. Aaron, South Oldham?
Robert Frost.
That's incorrect. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. These lines were written by Robert Frost. What is the title of the poem in which they appear? Michael Dorman.
Stopping by the woods on a snowy evening.
That's correct. Name the former President of the United States who is the only one to be elected to the U.S. Rob Dorman.
John Quincy Adams.
That's correct. Name the former mayor of Denver who is currently Aaron, South Oldham. Time's up. Name the former mayor of Denver who is currently Secretary of Transportation. Rob Dorman.
Pina.
That's correct. What river flows through Indianapolis, Aaron, South Oldham?
White River.
That's correct. What was the signature song of the film Aaron, South Oldham? What was the signature song of the film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Josh Dorman.
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
That's correct. What is the name of the water culture method of growing plants? Josh Dorman.
Hypertonics.
It's incorrect. Can you take it, South Oldham? Reset, please. South Oldham, Derek?
Hydroponics.
That's correct. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote this poem, Rob Dorman.
Old Ironsides.
That's correct. What novel did English writer Daniel Defoe, Peter, South Oldham?
Robinson Crusoe.
That's correct. What novel by Ernest Hemingway, Peter, South Oldham?
For whom the bell tolls.
That's incorrect. What novel by Ernest Hemingway opens with the line, Robert Cohn was once middleweight boxing champion of Princeton? John Dorman.
Sun also rises.
That's correct. 8-second question, teams. What is the value of 8 factorial divided by 6 Aaron, South Oldham.
56.
That's correct. What is the chemical formula for potassium cyan? John Dorman.
KCN.
That's incorrect. What is the chemical formula for potassium cyanate? Jason, South Oldham.
ASCN.
KOCN. That's 20 questions. We're at the end of round one. Coaches, you may confer with your players.
Score, Dorman 100, South Oldham 90. Coaches agree.
It's your bonus round, team. Who directed the 1992 movie Rob Dorman?
Clint Eastwood.
That's correct. Dorman, your first bonus category is Bank of the United States. For 5 points each, answer these questions about the second Bank of the United States. Which 19th century president was determined to terminate the second Bank of the United States?
Jackson.
That's correct. Who was the president of the second Bank of the United States that fought back?
Biddle.
Correct. Who was Jackson's opponent in a presidential election that sought to make the rechartering of the second Bank of the United States a key issue of that election year?
Yeah, I misplaced. Clay.
That's correct. What presidential election year was that in which Andrew Jackson sought re-election?
1832. 21st one. No, that was not what it was. 1832.
That's correct.
That's the first one he was elected in. He lost 24.
That's right.
Playing for another bonus, here's your toss-up. Who is noted for having said "our country"? Aaron, South Oldham.
Stephen Decatur.
That's correct. South Oldham, your category is Better Living Through Chemistry. I want you to identify these pioneers in the field of chemistry. First, discovered vulcanization of rubber.
Goodyear.
That's correct. First, to synthesize an organic compound from an inorganic compound.
Wohler.
That's correct. First, to synthesize ammonia from nitrogen and hydrogen.
Haber.
That's correct. Developed radiocarbon dating technique based on carbon-14.
Libby.
That's correct. Playing for another bonus. Here's your toss-up question. What did Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe, Jason, South Oldham?
Elliptical orbits.
It's incorrect. What did the Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe observe in 1572 that helped disprove the ancient idea that no change would occur in the heavens beyond the orbit of the moon? Dorman, Michael.
Retrograde orbits.
It's incorrect. A supernova. That's what he observed. What novel by William Dean Howells tell Rob Dorman?
The Rise of Silence Lab.
That's incorrect. What novel by William Dean Howells tells the story of Marcia Gaylord and Bartley Hubbard? Time's up. A Modern Instance is the answer. Michelangelo's Moses was originally intended to be one of many statues for who? Michael Dorman.
For the tomb of Pope Leo II.
It's incorrect. I will repeat. Michelangelo's Moses was originally intended to be one of many statues for whose tomb? Aaron, South Oldham.
Pope Julius II.
That's the correct answer. Your category is composers in D. I'll name the work, you name the composer whose last name begins with the letter D. New World Symphony.
Dvorak.
That's correct. Claire de Lune.
Debussy.
Correct. La Peri, P-E-R-I.
Duquesne.
That's incorrect. Lucretia Borgia. It's incorrect. La Prairie is Paul Dukas, and Donizetti is the Lucretia Borgia. Playing for one more bonus, teams. Here's your toss-up. Also called jumping jeans. What is John Dorman?
Introns.
It's incorrect. Also called jumping genes, what is the name of the movable segments of DNA? Aaron, South Oldham.
Exons.
It's incorrect. Transposons is the correct answer. He was noted for his campaign oratory with lines such as, while there, Aaron, South Oldham.
William Jennings Bryan.
Incorrect. He was noted for his campaign oratory with lines such as, while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. 5 times he was an unsuccessful candidate for President of the United States. Who was this? Founder of the Social Democrat Party. Michael Dorman.
Debs.
Debs is correct. Category is Nobel Peace Prize. I'll describe the Peace Prize winner, and you give me the name. Polish labor organizer.
Valenza.
Correct. South African black bishop.
Tutu.
Correct. Jewish Holocaust author.
Wiesenthal.
It's incorrect. Tends the poor of Calcutta.
Mother Teresa.
That's correct. Elie Wiesel is the answer to the third question. We're through 4 bonus questions. It is halftime, coaches. You may confer and you may substitute.
Score at halftime, Dorman 155, South Oldham 140.
Let me know so I don't have to get you to repeat. Plus, I'm getting old. It's hard. South Oldham, you trail. You may choose first. Choices are events in presidential administrations, cinema detectives, or death and violence in literature.
Go on with the presidents, please.
Events in presidential administrations. I will give you an event in American history. You give me the name of the president during whose term it occurred. Here we go. We begin with number 1, Louisiana Purchase.
Jefferson. Jefferson.
Correct. Gadsden Purchase.
Pierce.
Correct. Alaska Purchase.
Johnson.
More specific.
Andrew.
Correct. Virgin Islands Purchase.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Incorrect. Annexation of Hawaii.
McKinley.
Correct. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo.
Polk.
Correct. Treaty of Ghent.
Madison.
Correct. Webster-Ashburton Treaty.
Monroe.
Incorrect. Treaty of Portsmouth.
Theodore Roosevelt.
Correct. Jay Treaty.
Washington.
That's correct. That's through all 10. That's 8 correct. We reset for 30. Dorman first. Virgin Islands Purchase.
McKinley.
It's incorrect. Webster-Ashburton Treaty.
J.Q. Adams.
That's incorrect. Virgin Islands was Woodrow Wilson. And Webster-Ashburton was John Tyler. Dorman, cinema detectives, or death and violence in literature?
We'll take death and violence in literature.
Death and violence in literature. The following questions involve the death or violence to a literary character. I will give the situation. You give me the literary work. Here we go. Number 1, untimely death of Judge Pynchon.
Judge Pynchon was House of Seven Gables.
House of Seven Gables.
That's correct. Captain Vere orders the hanging of a sailor.
Billy Budd.
Billy Budd.
Correct. Sidney Carton dies on the guillotine.
Tell Two Cities.
Correct. Robert Jordan, a guerrilla fighter, is left on a hillside to die.
William Beltals.
That's correct. Edgar, the legitimate son of the Earl of Gloucester, kills the treacherous Edmund.
King Lear.
King Lear.
Correct. Lily Bart overdoses on sleeping pills.
Pass.
Big Daddy Pollitt is dying of cancer.
It's Cat in a Hot Tin Roof.
Cat in a Hot Tin Roof.
Correct. An account of the Clutters murders by 2 men in Kansas.
That's In Cold Blood.
In Cold Blood.
Correct. The adventures and eventual death of Daniel Dravot, D-R-A-V-O-T.
Pass.
Pass.
An architect, Solness, falls to his death from a high spire he has built on his house.
Is that Fountainhead? Pass.
That's the last one.
Fountainhead.
Fountainhead.
That's incorrect. 3 to turn over to South Oldham, or we reset the clock. South Oldham first, Lily Bart overdoses on sleeping pills.
Brave New World.
Incorrect. The adventures and eventual death of Daniel Dravot, D-R-A-V-O-T.
As I Lay Dying.
Incorrect. An architect, Solness, falls to his death from a high spire he has built on his house.
Atlas Shrugged.
Incorrect. Lily Bart in the sleeping pills is the House of Mirth. Daniel Dravot was the man who would be king, and the untimely fall from the house is the master builder.
Score at the end of 3 periods. Dorman, 225. South Oldham, 220.
Okay, I'm thinking. I got it mixed up.
I wish.
Here we go. What capital city is closest to Buenos Aires, Aaron, South Oldham?
Montevideo.
That's correct. 8-second question. What is the greatest integer less than negative 30, Peter, South Oldham?
Negative 36.
That's incorrect. What is the greatest integer less than negative 36 over 11? John Dorman.
-4.
That's correct. What famous texts were discovered in Jason, South Oldham?
Dead Sea Scrolls.
That's correct. What is the term for a complex ion carrying both a positive, John Dorman?
Ligand.
That's incorrect. What is the term for a complex ion carrying both a positive and negative charge at different sites? South Oldham, Aaron.
Polar ion.
Unacceptable.
That's not acceptable. Zwitterion is the correct answer. Redfield Proctor. Let me start again. Redfield. Okay, now Aaron, South Oldham.
The Crucible by Arthur Miller.
It's incorrect. Redfield Proctor, James Monroe, John C. Calhoun, Jefferson Davis, Edwin Stanton, and Henry Knox have all held which cabinet position? Dorman Robb.
Secretary of State.
Secretary of War. Name the choreographer who created and staged the dances for musical play Oklahoma. Rob Dorman.
Agnes DeMille.
That's correct. What novel recounts the saga of the Buendias, the founding family of the isolated mythical town of Rob Dorman?
100 Years from Solitude.
That's correct. What is the name of the outer layer of the hair, Aaron, South Oldham?
Follicle.
Incorrect. What is the name of the outer layer of the hair shaft? Dorman Josh.
The cuticle.
That's correct. What American writer, better known for his novels, composed a long poem entitled Clarel? Aaron, South Oldham.
Sandberg.
Incorrect. What American writer, better known for his novels, composed a long poem entitled Clarel, a poem and a pilgrimage in the Holy Land? Rob Dorman.
Bella.
Herman Melville is the correct answer. Which St. Louis merchant is credited with Aaron, South Oldham?
Levi Strauss.
Incorrect. Which St. Louis merchant is credited with blazing the Santa Fe Trail? Time is up, is that
Time
correct?
is up.
William Becknell is the correct answer. What liqueur is featured in the title of paintings by Edgar Degas, Rob Dorman?
Absent.
That's correct. Makes the heart grow fonder. Thank you. What is the general term for a solution that resists change in John Dorman?
Buffer.
Buffer is correct. Name either member of the so-called Minnesota Twins, Aaron South Oldham.
Kirby Puckett.
That's incorrect. Name either member of the so-called Minnesota Twins on the United States Supreme Court during the early 1970s. Rob Dorman.
Earl Warren.
It's incorrect. Warren Berger or Harry Blackman. Kirby Puckett would make an interesting justice. Name the golden brown alga with a cell wall in Aaron South Oldham.
Diatom.
Diatom is correct. What science fiction masterpiece opens with the line, "Once upon a time there was a Martian named John Dorman"?
Martian Chronicles.
It's incorrect. What science fiction masterpiece opens with the line, "Once upon a time there was a Martian named Valentine Michael Smith"? South Oldham, Jason.
War of the Worlds.
Stranger in a Strange Land. What brownish poisonous spider has a dark Aaron South Oldham?
Brown Recluse.
That's correct. The Council of Constance tried Aaron South Oldham.
The Babylonian Captivity, the Papal Controversy.
That's incorrect. The Council of Constance tried which Bohemian reformer and professor at the University of Prague for doctrinal heresy and had him burned at the stake? Rob Dorman.
Us.
That's correct. Final question, teams. We ask to remain in place until we have a final score announced. According to Greek legend, whom did Ganymede succeed as John Dorman?
Iris.
Incorrect. According to Greek legend, whom did Ganymede succeed as cupbearer to the gods? Aaron South Oldham.
Hermes.
Hebe is the correct answer. Good game. Great game, guys. Real good. Nice game.
Funny, you just, there was an outside.
I did.
Sorry, who wouldn't have? Who would? Oh, I'm
Always managed.
Final score, Dorman 365, South Oldham 300.
Great game.
Good luck.
Good match.
Ready to go?
Starts with, yeah.
Walton, I know you've not been in this room during this tournament. I just want to remind you that in here, I do the recognizing as opposed to, I know some of the other rooms it's different. So I will be recognizing you. I remind you that there's a Scott on both teams and a James and Jim. So be sure that you remember to wait for full recognition before you answer. As the day goes on, the crowds will start to grow. It's going to be very, very easy for you to want to play along. I encourage you to do that very quietly and without expression as much as possible. So we decide which team moves on in this tournament based on their ability to answer the questions and not on some technicality. Congratulations, you've made it to the final 16. We're ready to go. Good luck. Pardon me? Is this down to 8 now? They did the buzzer check. Which blood type is considered to be the universe? Scott Walton.
Oh.
That's correct. Who is the only former president of the United States to have been elected to the United States Senate? Joseph Walton.
Thomas Quincy Adams.
Incorrect. Who is the only former president of the United States to have been elected to the United States Senate after his term as president? Irmo Scott.
Tyler.
It's incorrect. Andrew Johnson. What famous document providing limited religious toleration did King Henry IV of France, James Irmo?
Age not.
That's correct. His first name means red jewel, a name he once said he found odious. He was born on November 14, 1889 at Allahabad, India. Give the first and last name of this man who was the first prime... Scott Irmo.
Jawaharlal Nehru.
That's correct. What controversial singer recorded the album Am I Not Your Girl? Jim Walton.
Sinead O'Connor.
That's correct. What play takes place through the conversations of a group of derelicts in the back room at the end of the line cafe? Scott Walton.
Valid Descent Cafe.
Incorrect. Irmo, you may take it. Time's up. The Iceman cometh. Name the actor who stars in the movies Hoffa and a Few... Scott Irmo.
Nicholson.
That's correct. In what novel do we find the characters Maggie Tulliver and her brother Scott Irmo?
Mill and the Floss.
That's correct. Who created the characters Lily Bart, Lawrence Selden, and Gus Trenner for the novel The House of Scott Irmo?
Buck.
Incorrect. Who created the characters Lily Bart, Lawrence Selden, and Gus Trenner for the novel The House of Mirth? Scott Walton.
Wharton.
That's correct. If you said something scurrilous, Scott Walton.
Scurrilous.
That's correct. In which state did President Franklin D. Roosevelt die? Scott Irmo.
Georgia.
That's correct. Name the gland of the body that produces epinephrine. Scott Irmo.
Adrenal gland.
That's correct. Finally learned how to pronounce that and you interrupted me. What is the easternmost provincial capital of Canada? Jim Walton.
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
It's incorrect. Irmo? Irmo James?
St. John.
That's correct. What group had 1986 hit singles Manic Monday and Peter Walton?
Bengals.
That's correct. What prefix is used to indicate 1/1000th of a... Scott Walton.
Pico.
Incorrect. What prefix is used to indicate 1/1000th of a unit? Irmo Scott.
Nano.
Nano is correct. To what southern capital did President Dwight D. Eisenhower send Scott Irmo?
Little Rock.
That's correct. What two metals are believed to form the cores of the inner plant? Scott Irmo.
Iron and nickel.
That's correct. In what state would you find William Penn, Jim Walton?
Pennsylvania.
It's incorrect. In what state would you find William Penn, Briarcliff, and Grinnell colleges? Irmo Scott.
North Carolina.
It's incorrect. Iowa. What is the Spanish word for blue? Alex Irmo.
Azul.
That's correct. Who wrote a short story entitled The Short Happy Life of Scott Walton?
Hemingway.
That's correct. That's 20 questions. We're at the end of round one. Coaches, you may confer with your teams. William Beckford's Vathek, V-A-T-H-E-K, is an example of a genre of fiction which is Scott Walton.
Gothic.
That's correct. American diplomatic history is your category. Answer these questions from 19th century American history. By the terms of what treaty did the United States acquire Florida from Spain?
Adams-Onis Treaty.
That's correct. At the time this treaty was negotiated, what position in government did John Quincy Adams hold?
Secretary of State.
That's correct. Who was the President of the United States at the time this treaty was negotiated?
Monroe.
That's correct. The United States government agreed in the treaty to pay citizens' claims against Spain up to what amount?
$500.
$5 million.
Okay.
Okay, playing for another bonus. Here's your toss-up. What is the capital of the Republic of the Congo? Scott, Walton.
Kinshasa.
Incorrect. What is the capital of the Republic of the Congo? Time's up. Brazzaville is the answer. What is the general term for plants that grow in salty Scott, Irmo.
Xerophytes.
Incorrect. What is the general term for plants that grow in salty soil? Peter, Walton.
Halophytes?
That's correct. Foreign film classics. Identify the foreign film I'm describing. First, 1960 Ingmar Bergman film about the rape and murder of an innocent young girl.
Wild Strawberries.
It's incorrect. 1982 Werner Herzog film about an entrepreneur in the Amazon jungle.
Get an answer.
Brazil.
It's incorrect. 1975 Lena Wertmuller film about a shipwrecked couple.
The Blue Lagoon.
It's incorrect. 1981 Wolfgang Peterson film about a U-boat crew during World War II.
Das Boot.
That's correct. The Virgin Spring was the 60 Bergman film. Werner Herzog's film was Fitzcarraldo, and Swept Away was the shipwrecked couple. Playing for another bonus, here's your toss-up. What English company was chartered in 1672 to bring slaves? James Irmo.
The Plymouth Bay Colony.
Incorrect. What English company was chartered in 1672 to bring slaves to America? Scott, Walton.
The British East India Company.
The Royal African Company is the answer. Also known as animal starch or liver, Scott, Irmo.
Glycogen.
That's correct. Irmo, this is a listing bonus. You'll have 32 seconds to complete your answer. Hematology is the category. Besides neutrophils, there are 4 other types of white blood cells. Name them.
Basophils, eosinophils, monocytes, lymphocytes.
That's correct. One more bonus, teams. Here's your toss-up. Which butterfly mimics the James Irmo?
Viceroy.
That's correct. French artists is the category. Name the artist of the following works. Water lilies.
Monet.
Correct. Women of Algiers.
Manet.
Incorrect. Card players.
Cézanne.
That's correct. Bather in the woods.
Renoir.
It's incorrect. Camille Pissarro is the last one, and Delacroix is the woman of Algiers. That's all 4 bonus questions. We're at halftime. Coaches, you may confer with your teams and you may substitute.
Score at halftime, Irmo 160, Walton 100.
For the 62nd round, Scott, this first time in this room, I encourage you to really speak up for me. So. Walton, your choices are geographical features, history of biology, or Italian composers.
History of biology. Biology or composers. Italian composers.
Italian composers. I'll give you the composition. You name the composer. We begin with number 1, La Traviata. Oh, hold it. Go. You ready? Go. La Traviata.
Verdi.
Correct. Lucia di Lammermoor.
Donizetti.
Correct. Tosca.
Puccini.
Correct. Carmen.
Bizet.
Correct. Pagliacci.
Leoncavallo.
That's correct. The Fountains of Rome.
Respighi.
Correct. The Four Seasons.
Vivaldi.
Correct. Mephistopheles.
Gounod.
Incorrect. Cavalleria Rusticanica. Rusticana.
Pagliacci.
Incorrect. The Prisoner.
Pass.
That's 10. 7 out of 10. We'll reset the clock. 30 seconds, Irmo, Mephistopheles.
Ponchielli.
Incorrect. Cavalleria Rusticana.
Mascagni.
That's correct. The Prisoner.
Ponchielli.
That's incorrect. Mephistopheles is Boito, and Dalla Piccolo is the Prisoner. Irmo, you may select between geographical features and history of biology.
History of biology.
Name history of biology is the category. Name the biologists described by the following phrases. In 1628, demonstrates that blood circulates.
Harvey.
Correct. Coins the term cell to describe compartments in cork.
Hook.
Correct. Discovers that capillaries link arteries to veins.
Galen.
Incorrect. Initiates binomial system of naming organisms.
Linnaeus.
That's correct. Presents evidence that natural selection guides evolution.
Darwin.
Correct. Develops vaccines against rabies.
Pasteur.
Correct. Proposes basic laws of genetics in 1866.
Mendel.
Correct. Devises method of chemical sterilization and surgery.
Lister.
That's correct. Establishes germ theory of disease.
Pass.
Discovers ABO blood types.
Levinson.
That's incorrect. That's 10. Walton, we reset. It's over to you first. Discovers that capillaries link arteries to veins.
Malpighi.
That's correct. Establishes germ theory of disease.
Koch.
Correct. Discovers ABO blood types.
Landsteiner.
That is also correct.
Yeah, we have to write it out. They have to write it out.
Most of you have been here before. The way we do things in this room is once, and this is the exact process, so I hope you note that. This was handled very well by both teams. The way we handle protests in the room, the judgment is made, and then I explain the judgment, give everybody a chance to calm down from the judgment, and we move on, and what our reasoning is. Okay, the protest that was filed concerned the lightning round category Italian composers. That one of the question, I said I'll give said the category is Italian composers. I'll give you the composition. You name the composer. We then went through the list. The Carmen by Bizet was included in that list, and the protest that was filed is that Bizet is French, Carmen is written in French. We, among us, will make that assumption to be true. However, this is the way we feel about it. The question, as it was asked, was for a composer of equal difficulty to the rest of the questions, and if this problem were going to have an adverse effect on a team, it would more likely have had an adverse effect on Walton, because they would have been thinking Italian composers. So I understand the spirit of the protest, or we're going to deny the protest. Score is Irmo 240, Walton 200.
Jim, number 45.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, you guys understand?
Yeah, we're done. For both teams, we are at question number 27.
What is the most abundant sodium compound in the Earth's Scott, Irmo?
Sodium chloride.
That's incorrect. What is the most abundant sodium compound in the Earth's crust? Walton, Scott.
Sodium oxide.
That's correct. Cristobal Colon, a famous explorer. Scott, Walton.
Piano.
Incorrect. Cristobal Colon, a famous explorer, is better known by what English name? James, Irmo.
Columbus.
That's correct. What is the name of the beautiful young woman loved by Dmitri Karamazov and pursued by his father, Fyodor Pavlovich, in Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov? Scott, Irmo.
Grushenka.
That's correct. The Moon and Sixpence by Summers. Scott, Irmo.
Gauguin.
That's correct. After which battle against Mark Antony's forces, Scott, Irmo?
Acton.
Did he answer before or after the bell? That's all I want to know.
After the bell.
He answered after the bell. After which battle against Mark Antony's forces did Brutus commit suicide? Scott, Walton.
Philippi.
That's correct. One of the labors of Hercules was to clean out some stable. Scott, Irmo.
Augean stables.
That's correct. This artist's painting, I and the Village, Scott, Walton.
Chagall.
That's correct. What was the first epoch of the Cenozoic? Scott, Irmo.
The Paleolithic.
Unacceptable.
What was the first epoch of the Cenozoic era? Scott, Walton.
Tertiary.
Paleocene. The composer Johannes Brahms lived for a period of years with which famous composer? Irmo, Scott.
Wagner.
Incorrect. Walton? Walton, Peter.
Haydn.
Robert Schumann. Of whom was Franz Joseph Haydn speaking when he said, quote, I must tell you before God and as an honest man that I think your son was the greatest... Scott, Walton.
Mozart.
That's correct. Name the rain and fertility god of the Aztecs to Scott, Irmo.
Laylock.
That's correct. Henry Roth, an Austro-Hungarian-born American author, wrote only one novel. It recorded 3 years in the life of a Jewish immigrant boy named David Sherrill. James, Irmo.
Europa.
Incorrect. Henry Roth, an Austro-Hungarian-born American author, wrote only one novel. It recorded 3 years in the life of a Jewish immigrant boy named David Sherrill. What was the title of this work? Call It Sleep is the answer. Who is the protagonist of Ernest Hemingway's famous story, The Killer? Scott Walton.
Nick Adams.
That's correct. In which state did the infamous murder trial of Sacco and Scott Irmo?
Massachusetts.
That's correct. Who published a paper in 1847 giving a mathematical formulation of the principle of conservation of energy? Walton Scott.
Maxwell.
Incorrect. Irmo? Irmo Scott.
Faraday.
Hermann Helmholtz is the correct answer. Give either of the two-word Latin terms which may be used for a judicial proceeding by or for one party without contest. Scott Walton.
Nolo contendere.
That's incorrect. Give either of the two-word Latin terms which may be used for a judicial proceeding by or for one party without contest by the adverse party. Time's up. Ex parte or in re would have been acceptable. What is the term for a bundle of neuron cell? Scott Irmo.
A ganglion.
That's correct. The Battle of Adowa was a humiliating defeat in 1896 for what European country? James Irmo.
Russia.
Incorrect. Joseph Walton.
Italy.
Italy is correct. Teams, it's your final question. We ask you stay in place until we have a score to announce. In the complex plane, what is the term for the distance of a complex number from the origin? Scott Walton.
Magnitude.
Incorrect. You may take it, Irmo. Irmo Ernie.
Absolute value.
Absolute value is correct.
What were you trying to say? Actio.
What?
Final score, Irmo 400, Walton 320.
Great job. This is your first time in here?
Yes, sir.
In the week. I want to remind you that in this room, I will do the recognizing, so you know where that's coming from. Name and school, as always. Okay, I think we're ready. The audiences grow as this time goes on, so I remind you again, you've done a terrific job all week. Please be very careful in, if you're going to play the game, just do it in your own mind as opposed to someone next to you. Everybody in here knows that all of you know all the answers. It's a little tougher up here for them, okay?
We do have two Johns.
Thank you, yes. And a Josh.
Two Michaels.
And two Michaels.
Oh my gosh. I don't think we should do this.
I'm not playing that. Not another team.
You say the school name last, you know.
I say whatever happens to come out of my mouth.
Josh, okay.
Good luck. Final four. It's been a terrific season and a terrific tournament for all of you, so congratulations. And Mark is here as our judge in this room. Mark? Gary, and Gary's just over there falling asleep. Here we go. After the breakup of the Soviet Union, what country has the largest land? Josh Dorman.
Russia.
That's correct. 8-second question, teams. There are 28 students in a history class. If the ratio of boys to girls is 4-3, how many girls? John Dorman.
12.
That's correct. Attorney for the Damned contains 9 summations and 4 speeches made by what famous? Rob Dorman. Darrow is correct. What American science fiction writer is the author of the novel Something? John Northside.
Bradbury.
That's correct. What 1989 film dealt with political and moral issues surrounding the 1976? Rob Dorman. Time's up. What 1989 film dealt with political and moral issues surrounding the 1976 Soweto uprising? John Northside.
Cry Freedom.
A Dry White Season is the answer. Kaskaskia, Cahokia, and Vincennes were all captured by forces under the command John Northside.
Stark.
It's incorrect, I'll repeat. Kaskaskia, Cahokia, and Vincennes were all captured by forces under the command of George Rogers Clark during which war? Dorman. Rob.
French and Indian War.
American Revolution. In what novel does an unemployed farmer named Michael Henchard be John Northside?
Mayor of Casterbridge.
That's correct. What is the term for the chord of an ellipse passing through the John Northside?
Vertex.
Incorrect. What is the term for the chord of an ellipse passing through the foci? John Dorman.
Major axis.
Major axis is correct. In Walt Whitman's poem, Out of the Cradle Endlessly Rocking, what low and delicious word do the waves whisper to the child? Josh Dorman.
Sleep.
Incorrect. Northside. John Northside.
Rain.
Death is the correct answer. At one time, the word caisson described a horse-drawn vehicle, usually two-wheeled, that was used to haul ammunition. Spell Rob Dorman.
Caison.
That's incorrect. Northside.
Is that the whole question?
That's
Yes. Gary Northside.
Kheson.
Caisson. What is the southernmost major Hawaiian island? Michael Northside.
Mainland Hawaii.
That's correct. Name the president of Brazil who was forced from office. Michael Northside.
Pedro Cabral.
It's incorrect. Name the president of Brazil who was forced from office because of political corruption. Time's up. De Mello is the correct answer. During the Italian Renaissance, what was the leading city of Rob Dorman?
Florence.
That's correct. What is the term for the reciprocal of the tangent? Gary Northside.
Cotangent.
That's correct. Person seeking admission to the United States must get an official permit from a United States consul. John Dorman.
Visa.
That's correct. Name the most recent Broadway play written by Herb Gardner and starring Judd Hirsch. Sheila Northside.
Conversations with My Father.
That's correct. What famous English playwright married Anne Hathaway? John Dorman.
Shakespeare.
That's correct. You know that question had to be in this tournament. So. What are the Latin words for Hail Mary? John Northside.
Ave Maria.
That's correct. Who is the only commander-in-chief of the Continental Army? Rob Dorman.
George Washington.
That's correct. What was the first American submarine to John Northside?
Nautilus.
That's correct. That's 20 questions. Coaches, you may confer with your teams.
Score is Dorman 80, Northside 70.
Here we go. Bonus round. In what state is the Green River Park? John, Northside.
South Dakota.
Incorrect. In what state is the Green River Parkway? Rob, Dorman.
Vermont.
Kentucky. 8-second question, teams. A 60-foot cable is cut into 3 pieces in the ratio of 5 to 4 to 3. What is the length of the longest piece? John, Dorman.
25 feet.
That's correct. Dorman, your category is 100 Years' War. Answer each of these questions about the 100 Years' War. What naval battle was the first great victory for the English in the 100 Years' War?
Battle of Calais.
It's incorrect. In which battle of the 100 Years' War did the English capture the French king?
Agincourt.
Incorrect. Which English king won the Battle of Agincourt?
Richard II.
It's incorrect. In what city was Joan of Arc burned at the stake by the English?
Rouen.
That's correct. The naval battle was Sluys, and Poitiers was the battle when the English captured the French king, and Henry V was the English king we were looking for. Playing for another bonus, teams. Here's your toss-up. What is the term for the yellow discoloration of the Sheila, Northside?
Jaundice.
That's correct. Northside, your category is atomic weights. I want you to identify the element that I give you. I will identify the element having the approximate atomic weight that I give you. First, 35.45.
Chlorine.
That's correct. 24.31.
Magnesium.
That's correct. 196.97.
Plutonium.
It's incorrect. 40.08.
Calcium.
That's correct. 196.97 is gold. Playing for another bonus, teams. Here's your toss-up. Who was the last Whig president? John, Northside.
Tyler.
It's incorrect. Who was the last Whig presidential candidate? Dorman, Michael.
Harrison.
Winfield Scott is the answer.
Sorry.
The magical ability to assume the form and characteristics of a wolf is called lycanthropy. Spell lycanthropy. John, Dorman.
Lycanthropy.
That's correct. You wolf, you. Jazz nicknames is your category. I'll give you the nickname of a famous jazz musician. You give me his last name. First, Satchmo.
Armstrong.
That's correct. Jelly Roll.
Morton.
That's correct. Count.
Basie.
That's correct. Bix.
Bix. No, it's Bix. Bix.
Anybody? You've just dated.
Spiderback.
Bix Beiderbecke. One more toss-up team, one more bonus you're playing for. In which article of the Constitution of the United States would you read the following? Quote, no tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. John, Dorman.
The second.
It's It's incorrect. John Northside.
4.
1. Peter Salem and Salem Poor were two African Americans who displayed great valor during which... Rob Dorman.
Civil War.
It's incorrect. Peter Salem and Salem Poor were two African Americans who displayed great valor during which war? Northside John.
American Revolution.
That's correct. This is a listing bonus, Northside. You'll have 32 seconds in which to complete your answer. The Kennedy Center is your category. I want you to name any 4 of the 6 1992 Kennedy Center honorees for contribution to the American arts.
Audrey Hepburn. Say Therese. Simon. Walcott.
They all deserve it, but they didn't get it in 92. Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward, Paul Taylor, Ginger Rogers, Lionel Hampton, and Mislav Rostropovich were the honorees this past year. That concludes all 4 bonus questions. We're at halftime. Coaches, you may confer and you may substitute. Score, Mark?
Score, Dorman 120, Northside 105.
Are we ready? Northside, you trail, you have first choice. Your choices are Chief Justices, philosophers, or painters and sculptors.
Painters and sculptors.
You selected painters and sculptors. I'll name the paint. I will give you the work. You will name the painter or sculptor. Here we go. We begin with number 1. St. Teresa in Ecstasy.
Bernini.
Correct. The Helga series.
Wyeth.
More specific.
Andrew.
Correct. Boy bitten by a lizard.
O'Keefe.
Incorrect. The Raft of the Medusa.
Jericho.
Correct. Cracking the Whip.
Homer.
Correct. Daughters of the American Revolution.
Is that Grant Wood? Grant Wood.
Correct. The Minuteman.
French.
Correct. Death of Sardanapalus.
Is that Eugene Jolifov?
That's correct. The Scream.
Monk.
That's correct. Giovanni Arnolfini and his bride.
Van Eyck.
That's correct. That's 9 out of 10. We have 30 seconds. We turn it over to Dorman. Boy bitten by a lizard.
Boy bitten by a lizard. Say...
Rousseau.
Caravaggio is the correct answer there. And now, Dorman, you may select between Chief Justices and philosophers.
Philosophers.
You've selected philosophers. I am going to give you 10 quotes. In each case, you will tell me the philosopher who said it. Here we go. We begin with number 1. If God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him.
It's that is French guy. Yes.
Voltaire.
Correct. Cognito ergo sum.
Descartes.
Correct. Liberty consists in doing what one desires.
Mill.
Correct. Even while they teach, men learn.
Kant.
Incorrect. Knowledge is power.
Santillana.
Incorrect. Man is by nature a political animal.
It's Aristotle.
Aristotle.
Correct. The life which is unexamined is not worth living.
Socrates.
That's correct. Religion is the opium of the people.
Marx.
Correct. Happiness is not an ideal of reason but of imagination.
No, who's that guy?
Plato.
Incorrect. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles.
Old Faithfulness.
Thoreau.
It's incorrect. Okay, we'll reset. You got 6 correct. We reset for 30 seconds. We throw it to you, Northside first. Even while they teach, men learn.
Seneca.
That's correct. Knowledge is power.
Bacon.
That's correct. Happiness is not an ideal of reason but of imagination.
Kant.
That's correct. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles.
Confucius.
That's correct. That's both sides of round 3.
Dorman, 180. Northside, 235. There are 18 questions to go.
Here we go. A Louisiana Jim Crow law was upheld by the United States Supreme Court in what famous... John, Northside.
Dred Scott.
Incorrect. A Louisiana Jim Crow law was upheld by the United States Supreme Court in what famous 1896 decision? Michael Dorman.
Plessy versus Ferguson.
That's correct. Both the Salween River and the Ganges River empty into what, Michael, Northside?
The Bay of Bengal.
That's correct. Which Italian Renaissance artist painted Exposure of Luxury? John, Northside.
Raphael.
It's incorrect. Dorman? Rob, Dorman.
Caravaggio.
Bronzino is the correct answer. Name the process whereby the sequence of codons of messenger are... John, Dorman.
Translation.
That's correct. According to Samuel Taylor Coleridge, where did Kubla... John, Northside.
Xanadu.
That's correct. 8-second question. If a fair coin is flipped 8 times in succession, what is the probability that exactly one flip is tails? John, Dorman.
1 over 128.
Incorrect. Northside? Northside, Gary.
1 over 1,028.
It's incorrect. 8 over 256 or 1 over 32. The phrase, go and catch a falling star, is the first... Josh, Dorman.
Done.
Done is correct. My father was a famous religious philosopher and my brother was a famous psychologist. Rob, Dorman.
Henry James.
That's correct. Name the French sculptor who designed the statue. John, Northside.
Bartholdi.
That's correct. Which gospel begins in the beginning? John, Northside.
John.
That's correct. And no, don't protest that. I didn't get the answer. Who is the hero of Somerset Maugham's... Rob, Dorman.
Philip Carey.
That's correct. Who wrote a work about a short-lived love affair between a young Southern newspaper woman and a soldier? It was entitled Pale Horse, Rob, Dorman.
Catherine Ann Porter.
That's correct. The Colca River created a gorge that measured from its lower rim is 10,500 feet deep, more than twice as deep as the Grand Canyon. John, Northside.
Hell's Canyon.
It's incorrect. The Colca River created a gorge that measured from its lower rim is 10,500 feet deep, more than twice as deep as the Grand Canyon. In what country would you find the Colca Canyon? Dorman, Josh.
Russia.
Peru is the correct answer. 8-second question. In terms of pi radians, what is the inverse cosine of negative 1/2? Gary, Northside.
That is 5 pi over 3.
It's incorrect. Dorman. Dorman, Michael.
2 pi over 3.
That's correct. In the movie Goodbye, Mr. Chips, what is Mr. John, Northside?
He's a school teacher.
That's correct. What is the name of an activated B-cell lymphocyte? John, Northside.
Macrophage.
It's incorrect. What is the name of an activated B-cell lymphocyte that is producing antibodies? Josh, Dorman.
A phagocyte.
A plasma cell is the correct answer. At what university was the Pioneer large-scale computer Mark I put into operation? John, Northside.
Caltech.
Incorrect. Dorman. Dorman, Josh.
University of Chicago.
Harvard. Final question is an 8-second question. How many subsets of 9 elements does a set of 10 elements have? Gary, Northside.
1.
Incorrect. Dorman, Michael.
2.
10.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Score, Dorman 320, Northside 335.
And now, at the very same time, I would mind that with the people next to you or the person, anyone around you. Team, you know that I will be identifying you by name and school. Wait for that identification. Good luck. Here we go. Who's pioneering nursing effort? Dave, Henry Ford.
Florence Nightingale.
That's correct. How many hydrogen atoms are in a molecule of ethyl? Ryan, Henry Ford.
2.
It's incorrect. How many hydrogen atoms are in a molecule of ethyl alcohol? Northside, John.
4.
6. What is the Spanish word for city? Gary, Northside.
Ciudad.
That's correct. What French philosopher, dramatist, and critic published an autobiographical novel entitled Nausea? Jamie, Henry Ford.
Sartre.
That's correct. What was the name of the island colonized by refugee... Jamie, Henry Ford.
Roanoke.
It's incorrect. What was the name of the island colonized by refugee mutineers from the HMS Bounty? John, Northside.
Pitcairn.
That's correct. What college founded in 1693? John, Northside.
Yale.
Incorrect. What college founded in 1693 was the first college to be founded in the southern English colonies? Jamie, Henry Ford.
William and Mary.
That's correct. In what tale would you find Roderick and his sister Jamie Henry Ford?
Follow the House of Usher.
That's correct. What is the highest mountain not on the Asian Fred Henry Ford?
Mount Kilimanjaro.
Incorrect. What is the highest mountain not on the Asian continent? Gary, Northside.
Mount McKinley.
Incorrect. Mount Aconcagua. The underside of what spider has a red or yellow? Ryan Henry Ford.
Black Widow.
That's correct. What is the physical state of the element iodine? John, Northside.
Solid.
That's correct. Who wrote Miles Flanders? John, Northside.
Defoe.
That's correct. His Native American name was Tashunka Yuiko. He was killed in 1877 while Fred Henry Ford.
Tecumseh.
Incorrect. His Native American name was Tashunka Yuiko. He was killed in 1877 while resisting imprisonment. Who was this Sioux chieftain that gained fame at the Battle of the Little Bighorn? Northside, John.
Crazy Horse.
Crazy Horse is correct. In the territory of what modern state did Dave Henry Ford?
Kentucky.
It's incorrect. In the territory of what modern state did Davy Crockett die? Northside, Gary.
Texas.
That's correct. What 1987 comedy film featured the reunion of co-stars Frankie Avalon and Dave Henry Ford?
Back to the beach.
That's correct. Go figure. What branch of medicine deals with skin? John, Northside.
Dermatology.
That's correct. What is the most populous city in the Piedmont region? Fred Henry Ford.
Marseille.
Incorrect. What is the most populous city in the Piedmont region of Italy? John, Northside.
Padua.
Turin is the correct answer. Name the horse that won this year's John, Northside.
No idea.
Name the horse that won this year's Kentucky Derby. Fred Henry Ford.
Prairie Bayou.
I'm not taking you to the track. See Hero. I had money on Prairie Bayou. Name either of the two Los Angeles police officers. John, Northside.
Coon.
That's correct. Which American officer is credited with the American victory in the Battle of John, Northside.
Perry.
More specific.
Oliver.
That's correct. What author's works include The Hodge, Trinity, and John, Northside?
Missioner.
Incorrect. What author's works include The Hodge, Trinity, and Exodus? Jamie Henry Ford.
The Aunt Eurus.
That's correct, and that's 20 questions. We're at the end of round one. Coaches, you may confer with your teams.
Henry Ford 70, Northside 90.
Jamie captain and John captain. Here we go with the bonus round. In what state is the China Lake Naval Weapons Center? Fred Henry Ford.
California.
That's correct. Your category, Henry Ford, is United States Supreme Court. Identify the president who appointed these members of the current U.S. Supreme Court. First, Byron White.
Try. LBJ. LBJ.
Incorrect. Harry A. Blackman.
Try LBJ on that one. LBJ.
Incorrect. John Paul Stevens.
Try LBJ. LBJ.
Incorrect. Sandra Day O'Connor.
Reagan.
That's correct. Byron White was John Kennedy, Nixon appointed Blackman, and Stevens was appointed by Gerald Ford. Playing for another bonus, here's your toss-up. Which constitutional amendment took the longest period of time? Jamie Henry Ford.
27th.
That's correct.
Good, Jamie.
Chemical compounds is your category. I'm going to give you the formula. You will identify the compound having the given formula. K2SO4.
Potassium sulfate. Potassium sulfate.
That's correct. NaCN.
Sodium cyanide. Sodium cyanide.
That's correct. ZN3N2.
Zinc. Zinc nitride.
Say that again.
Zinc nitride.
That's correct.
Good.
CaC2.
Calcium carbonate. With the D or
Carbide.
Calcium carbide.
That's correct.
Good, Ryan.
Playing for another bonus, here's your toss-up. Who was King of Spain at the conclusion of the war? Fred, Henry Ford.
Philip II.
It's incorrect. Who was King of Spain at the conclusion of the War of Spanish Succession? Northside, John.
Alfonso.
It's incorrect. Philip V. What is the name of the outer white fibrous? Ryan, Henry Ford.
Sclera.
That's correct. Short stories and their authors is your category. I'll give you the title of a famous short story. You give me the author. First, The Lottery.
Shirley Jackson.
That's correct. Spotted Horses.
Guess.
No idea. Steinbeck? Steinbeck, sure.
Steinbeck.
It's incorrect. A Clean, Well-Lighted Place.
Steinbeck again.
Oh, Steinbeck.
It's incorrect. A Worn Path.
Oh, no.
Steinbeck. Irving.
Irving.
It's incorrect. Spotted Horses, William Faulkner. A Clean, Well-Lighted Place is Ernest Hemingway, and Eudora Welty wrote A Worn Path. Playing for one more bonus, teams. Here's your toss-up. According to the 1990 United States Census, which state has the least number of John Northside?
Wyoming.
It's incorrect. According to the 1990 U.S. Census, which state has the least number of African Americans? Dave Henry Ford.
Alaska.
Vermont is the correct answer. The city of Hamadan has the supposed tombs of the Old Testament figures Esther and Mordecai. To what modern country would you travel? Fred, Henry Ford.
Jordan.
Incorrect. The city of Hamadan has the supposed tombs of the Old Testament figures Esther and Mordecai. To what modern country would you travel to see those tombs? John Northside.
Saudi Arabia.
It's incorrect. Iran is the answer. Which receptors in the eyes of vertebrates respond to dim? John Northside.
Rods.
That's correct. Bonus category is women senators. I'll name the state. You tell me the current female U.S. senator. Illinois.
Clara Mosley Warren.
Bront.
That's correct. Kansas.
Nancy Castle.
Yeah, it is. Casablanca.
Correct. Maryland.
Brown.
Incorrect. Washington.
Brown.
It's incorrect. Maryland is Barbara Mikulski, and Patty Murray is from Washington. That's the fourth bonus question. We're at halftime. Coaches, you may substitute.
Henry Ford, 130, Northside, 110.
Okay, we're ready to begin the third period. This is the time when it's easiest to play along and get caught up in it. I ask you to be patient, especially don't forget that we have the rebound, so that I ask you once the first team has a chance to run through theirs, that you would remain silent until we've completed the complete cycle, okay? John, Northside Trails, your choices are second cities, composers and their works, famous Shakespeare quotes.
Think so? Want to? Think so? Let's forget second cities. Forget second cities altogether. And I think because it could have some. Yeah. Okay. I think so. Yeah. Composers.
You've selected composers and their works. I'll give you the composition. You name the composer.
Okay.
We begin with number 1, Song of the Earth.
Schumann.
Incorrect. The Magic Flute.
Mozart.
Correct. Billy Budd.
Britain.
Yeah, Britain.
Correct. Hymns of the Rig Veda.
Holst.
Correct. Symphonie Fantastique.
Berlioz.
Correct. Orpheus in the Underworld.
Is this Gluck or No, it's not. It's not either. It's Who is this? Okay. Pass. I can think.
Rhapsodie Espagnole.
Spanish Rhapsody.
Um,
Ravel.
yeah.
Ravel.
Correct. De Rosenkavalier.
It's Strauss. Strauss.
More specific.
Ricard.
Correct. Swan Lake.
Tchaikovsky.
Correct. Duke Bluebeard's Castle.
Bluebeard Castle. Come on. Bartok.
That's correct. That's all 10. That's 8 correct. We reset for, please audience, we reset for 30 seconds. First, Henry Ford, Song of the Earth.
Dvorak.
Incorrect. Orpheus in the Underworld.
Mussorgsky.
Incorrect. Song of the Earth is Gustav Mahler, and Orpheus in the Underworld is Jacques Offenbach. Henry Ford, you may now select between second cities and famous Shakespeare quotes.
We'll take Shakespeare quotes.
I'll give you the line, you tell me the play from in which it appears. We begin with number 1, the evil the men do lives after them.
Julius Caesar.
Correct. The quality of mercy is not strained.
Merchant of Venice.
Correct. 2 households, both alike in dignity.
Romeo and Juliet.
Correct. Oh, that there's two solid fresh.
Hamlet.
That's correct. Is this a dagger which I see before me?
Macbeth.
Correct. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers.
Henry the Fifth.
Correct. Now is the winner of our discontent.
Richard III.
That's correct. We are such stuff as dreams are made of.
The Tempest.
That's correct. If music be the food of love, play on.
Twelfth Night.
That's correct. Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed
Othello.
monster. Pardon me?
Othello.
That's 10 out of 10. That ends round 3. Coaches, you may confer with your teams. Score, please.
Score. Henry Ford 250, Northside 190. There are 18 questions to go.
The Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe, Jamie Henry Ford.
1905.
Incorrect. The Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine was first applied to which Caribbean country? John Northside.
Cuba.
Incorrect. Dominican Republic. What structure in the limbic system of the brain controls the automatic nervous... John Northside.
Cerebellum.
Incorrect. What structure in the limbic system of the brain controls the automatic nervous system and regulates body temperature, hunger, and thirst? Ryan Henry Ford.
Medulla.
Hypothalamus is the correct answer. What Flemish artist used black, red, and white chalk to draw an expressive portrait of his wife, Isabella? Jamie Henry Ford.
Van Eyck.
Incorrect. What Flemish artist used black, red, and white chalk to draw an expressive portrait of his wife, Isabella Brandt? Northside John.
De Kooning.
Rubens is the answer. What American playwright won a Pulitzer Prize for a play entitled The Skin? Jamie Henry Ford.
Thornton Wilder.
That's correct. What is the staff agency of the Library of Congress which provides research data to aid committees and members of Congress in their legislative duties? Time's up. Congressional Research Service. Which phylum or division of plants includes the mosses and... John Northside.
Bryophyta.
That's correct. In what part of the body do you find the Haversian... Ryan Henry Ford.
Bones.
That's correct. What is the two-word term for a substance that is completely consumed in a chemical... Ryan Henry Ford.
Oxidizing reaction.
Incorrect. What is the two-word term for a substance that is completely consumed in a chemical reaction? Gary Northside.
That's the reducing agent.
Incorrect. Limiting reagent is the correct answer. What war forms the setting for Shakespeare's tragedy? Jamie Henry Ford.
100 Years' War.
Incorrect. What war forms the setting for Shakespeare's tragedy Troilus and Cressida? Sheila Northside.
Punic War.
Trojan War. What is the name of the third or pupil stage in the life... John Northside.
Chrysalis.
That's correct. In part 2 of the Divine Comedy, who conducts... Jamie Henry Ford.
Beatrice.
Incorrect. In part 2 of the Divine Comedy, who conducts Dante up the mountain of purgatory, guiding him as far as human intellect can go? John Northside.
Virgil.
Virgil is correct. This American choreographer's modern dances strongly reflect his black Southern background. His works include Blues Suite. Jamie Henry Ford.
Jerome Robbins.
Incorrect. This American choreographer's modern dance strongly reflects his black Southern background. His works include Blues Suite and Mary Lou's Mass. Name him. Time's up. Alvin Ailey. Who wrote a popular English romance entitled The Prison? Jamie Henry Ford.
Hardy.
Incorrect. Who wrote a popular English romance entitled The Prisoner of Zenda? Gary Northside.
Hope.
Hope is correct. What is the name of the small finger-like project... John Northside.
Villi.
That's correct. Who wrote a novel dealing with shiftless and amoral Georgians entitled John Northside.
Erskine Caldwell.
That's correct. This brother of Hector killed John Northside.
Paris.
Paris is correct. The knee and elbow are Ryan Henry Ford.
Hinge joints.
That's correct. Final question, teams. Please stay in place until we have a final score. Which major unfinished work of Alexander Borodin's was completed by Rimsky-Korsakov and Glazunov? John Northside.
Kismet.
Incorrect. Which major unfinished work of Alexander Borodin's was completed by Rimsky-Korsakov and Glazunov after his death? Jamie Henry Ford.
Prince Igor.
That's correct.
It's a tie.
Henry Ford, 330. Northside, 330.
Huge guess. It's the only thing I knew. I didn't.
Either way.
Yeah. Let's do our best. We lose, we lose. We didn't. Go ahead.
We got this.
They're picking the tiebreaker. I don't know.
Going to the lessons.
It's going to be science or words. It has to be all of us. I'll lead us. Awesome. Yeah. Good job.
This is sudden death. The first team to score wins. Name the Roger who signed the Declaration. John Northside.
Ellery.
It's incorrect. Name the Roger who signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
You're in.
Jamie Henry Ford.
Williams.
It's incorrect. Sherman was the correct answer. Which part of the body is affected by the poisonous systemic disease? Ryan Henry Ford.
Nervous system.
It's incorrect. Which part of the body is affected by the poisonous systemic disease known as septicemia? Northside John.
The heart.
That's incorrect. The answer is the blood.
Oh, okay.
The term fifth column, John Northside.
Spanish Civil War, turned by Hemingway.
That is correct.
You're looking for the war. If I may have your attention, please.
I knew we would lose.
Well, I wish to thank somebody who still works with us, who's not here because she has to break in a new governor, but that's Brenda Matthews, and obviously having an Arkansas team win will make her very happy. It's interesting that the President of the United States was very instrumental in developing Quiz Bowl in Arkansas. I think the one person who makes this thing possible more than anybody other is the back of the room, Valerie Carlson from Lake Forest College. Valerie?
It is a long week for everybody, and we really do appreciate all the cooperation that we've had from all of you. And as someone who is, all I really have to do is stand up and read and try to keep my mouth from drying out too much. I can't say enough for the job that the people down here did. I don't think you have any idea how much time they spend trying to go over these questions and making sure everything is right for us to make this work as smoothly as possible. I think in the course of this week there were close to 4,000 total questions that were asked. Of those, I think we had maybe 3 that I can recall protests filed that dealt with factual material in those questions. They work very hard to provide for us readers acceptable answers, as well as answers that you might give that we shouldn't accept, and it makes our job much easier, and it makes the tournament run much more smoothly. So we very much appreciate that. As I said earlier, 55 teams began last Thursday, and anyone could be in this room today after that. Given these questions, this weekend, and the way everything went, we have 4 teams that we would like to honor in a very special way. First of all, in 4th place, we have Dorman High School. Congratulations, good turn. 3rd place, Irmo High School. And it's you can see how difficult it is to separate things when we get to the top. I think this really measures the kind of parity that's beginning to develop nationally in this kind of competition, and the fact that we can take 55 teams, come this far in a weekend with as many close games as we've had, and have the championship game of this season come down to a tie and decided after 3 sudden death questions. It tells you what kind of competition we have and what kind of young men and women we're working with in this program. So we're very, very proud not only of our champions and our co-champions, but how close this was and how well they've done. Our runners-up, and it's hard to call you runner-up when you went through 3 extra questions to make the difference, Henry Ford II High School. Well, I don't know about you, but probably the worst cliche in the world is everybody who comes here is a winner. Okay? We start that way with the tournament on the first day, and everybody kind of chuckles at it. You know that's true. We bring you to a lovely campus in a lovely part of the country. A little cold part of the country this weekend, but a lovely part of the country nevertheless. And we hope you've had an opportunity to look upon the time you spent here in Lake Forest and in the Chicago area this past weekend truly as your own prizes for winning from whatever part of the country you traveled from for this tournament. We truly do mean that. But just as everyone's a winner and you move on to the next tournament and the next competition, every tournament and every season has to come down to just one championship winner. And this year we have it. We have one who fought their way through a lot of close matches right down to this one. So our congratulations to our 1993 champions, Northside of Arkansas.
Coaches out there that helped us over the years and did a lot of things to help us win, and I want to thank all of you for the help you've done. And the tournament is so well run. This is the best tournament that there is. It is. And we thank all of you for coming and sharing with us. We've had a great time here. It's been a busy time.
But it has been a fun time. I said to as we started meeting earlier this week, that Lake Forest is one of those places where I come back to here once a year, but as soon as I walk on campus and see all of you, it's like my regular job. I feel like I've been here all year long. And I know some other people have said that throughout the course of this week as well. So we thank you very, very much for your cooperation. For all of you for staying this afternoon. I think it may be one of the biggest audiences we've ever had for championship competition. And these guys and those guys over there gave you that kind of competition. So one more round of applause. Have a safe trip home.